Hey everyone, how are you? It's me, Spiritual Dowsey. Hopefully you are all doing great out there. Welcome to my channel. And today's video is going to be a fairly informal discussion about what's on my mind and perhaps talk to you about some things that might be useful or just give you insight into what we are and why we are dealing with the things we are dealing with today. Now, I know the energies have certainly intensified and picked up as we are approaching or right here on the precipice of the 2022 gateway, alignment, portal, whatever it is that you want to call it in your own reality. But this is certainly an interesting time where the energies have certainly intensified, and we are seeing sort of this craziness in the world. A lot of it has been mirrored back to us, and I don't know if you've been watching the news or just paying attention to your own reality, but you can see there's so much going on. There's so much going on. And a lot of things are transpiring and transitioning and shifting and moving, right? Right now, we're having war talks. War talks and geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine. And that's having a kind of a tension between other countries, etc., and even those who are affected directly or indirectly by those war talks or geopolitical tensions. Information is being revealed, disclosed, truth is coming out in all aspects of our society. The structures that we exist in, there's disclosure happening everywhere. Health, financial, government, political, educational, you name it. Things are coming up to the surface to be seen, the truth. But there certainly feels like a force out there that are trying to keep things limited, reduce the impact, or just completely keep you distracted from the truth that's coming out. But what I will say is that the truth is always a higher vibration. So it's higher vibration than the activities or the energy projected onto it to keep it less than. So we will continue to see more of this come out. It'll be interesting to see how the truth manifests in our reality and whether or not the mainstream media and all the other news sources continue to play the way they are, or will they have to let some of that information come out? Massive protests around the world. Freedom rising. I've been talking about this in my other videos, that there's been this energy of freedom rising, and it certainly has played out currently right now to the neighbors above us. If you live in the States, in Canada, the Freedom Convoy, the truckers, that is just one indication, one example of how this energy is manifesting into our reality. And be interesting to see when this winds down, where else the energy goes or where else it starts to pop up. But there have definitely been protests around the world, all aided by the sun. Sun activity has been absolutely mind-boggling crazy. The coronal mass ejections, the activity that we're seeing from the sun, the radiation, the energy, the light that's being projected out into our solar system and that's hitting our planet is having a massive impact on Gaia, or our planet Earth itself. The electrical magnetic field of our planet is affected, and that has an effect on the energy centers of our planet. You better believe it's having an impact. Have you seen the weather? Have you seen the extremes in the weather? Have you seen the volcanoes, the earthquakes? And lately, I've been having dreams about water. Water, tidal waves, high levels of water, rushing rivers, etc. Seems to be something that may be playing out, that water is going to be involved, and how that manifests in our reality physically, not too sure, but I've been having this expectation about water movement. Perhaps maybe I'm just witnessing this in the astral realm so that it can be played out there, and it doesn't necessarily need to happen in the physical level, but certainly about water. Now, also, I tie water to the emotional body. So just like the earth, when her energy centers are moved, and we're talking about water movement, you're thinking about the emotional body. So we are tied to the earth. The earth is tied to us. Our energy centers are one with planet Earth because we exist on the planet. We are within her sound vibrational being. And so we are intertwined or interwoven with our energetic centers. So if there's water movement, you better believe your emotional body is probably going to have some things. And I certainly feel like that for many of us who've had emotional things come up recently. The tug and pull, the chaos energetically happening in each of our realities is being intensified, and we're probably seeing things pop up immediately and having to deal with it right then, not knowing where it came from. That is being seen and conveyed back to us in the mirror of the collective. So you throw that on top of the markets, the financial markets, the digital asset market, which are all correcting, and you have all of this thrown into a pot, and it is a very intense time. May we live in interesting times, and this period where we exist now is living up to that statement. We are living in a very interesting time. So what can I say about what's happening? Why are we having this? And what's going to be useful for a lot of you to go through this? I will say, I will give you my particular opinion, and then maybe two things that might help you as you go through this and navigate this time period. This time period, as many have heard in the spiritual world, to me is what I would say, is the Great Awakening. It's the Great Awakening of humanity. It is awakening to a light within itself that is igniting, right? That igniting of the light in itself is what I would call the Great Awakening. What is that light? That is a level of consciousness that's about self-awareness and seeking to know itself. And its connection with source and all things. It's seeking to see the light, which is the connection to source, all things, love, the universe, etc. That's where the light shows you your power. It's where the light shows you your connection to source. It's where the light shows you unity. It's where the light shows you love. That is the Great Awakening, and humanity has been on a slow roll on that. But like light, when you light something, right, it shines, it resonates, it conveys out into the world, out into its reality by just shining and being what it is, which is light. That light, when it is ignited, calls forth the darkness. There's an old saying, the brighter the light, the darker the shadows, right? In the consciousness of your self-awareness, what you have is through the dark times which we have been unconscious, as the light of self-awareness ignites and catches, and it cannot be extinguished. The light of self-awareness cannot be extinguished. It is always and forever lit, and it will burn and continue to burn. And no matter what the darkness does, it cannot extinguish it. But the darkness must come up to meet that light. It must come up because of the duality and the polarized universal world that we live in. And so the forces that be, that are the darkness, I would say, and the forces are trying desperately to extinguish your light. And through their actions, through the extremes and the things that are being done, they are inadvertently waking more humanity up. It is through the heartache, it is through the trials and tribulation of suffering that the unconscious will waken to their light. Unfortunately, that is the process that's going to happen. And as the forces, the darkness that comes to meet the light, work more hastily, work more, I would say more extreme, they're going to create an undoing of themselves. And that only is going to exasperate their situation and create a great awakening, which is what we are seeing at this moment. So the extremes and the intensity and the insanity of our world, of which we are existing in, is all but the light igniting within humanity in each one of us as we go forward and catching, and as the forces that be that meet the light to fight against it, to awaken humanity even further. That to me is what's happening. So what's going to happen? What do you need to help you move through these time periods? Number one, there were two things. Number one, I think you need discernment. You need a level of discernment to help you transition and move through or navigate these time periods. especially with the time period where we are inundated with information that's designed, that feels like by the forces to keep you separate, to pit you against one another, to keep you outside of yourself, to make you feel like a victim, to make you feel powerless, to make you feel like you are an enemy and others are as well as an enemy and that you are alone. That is what it feels like to me. And you're going to need discernment. You're going to need discernment of the logical mind. The logical mind, in terms of the experiences that you've had and the ability to, I would say, common sense to think through things, is going to be one way to discern. But that's going to be extremely difficult as we move forward. Why? There are facts on both sides of the fence. There are supporting documents on both sides of the fence. And it's going to be very hard to discern what's the truth between those two things if nobody can agree on the facts. So the logical aspect of your mind is going to be harder to utilize to discern. That's why I said in my book, in chapter 7, Finding the Truth, I give you an exercise to use the divine feminine aspect of your heart and intuition to help you find the truth for you to navigate through these time periods where the information that is being saturated towards you has facts on both sides of the fence. The masculine energy, the divine masculine energy of the mind and thinking and that kind of stuff, it's going to be hard to navigate because the facts are going to be so hypocritical, contrasting, that you can't really move. And the heart, intuition, the divine feminine energy of that is going to help you move forward. It's going to help you see below the surface level. It's going to help you see the agendas of separation, fear, and to keep you pitting and keeping you outside of yourself. That's what's going to be really useful as you go forward. The second thing, that I think is going to be really helpful for you is that the forces that be, the darkness that I applied to this story and them trying to stamp out this light, only can use the tools that are available to them to manipulate you. And those things can only manipulate you if you allow them, or you have darkness within you that they can use against you. Okay? So the concept of what I have said in my other videos is that you are a piece of coal working yourself to become a diamond. You need to work on yourself to improve the quality of what you hold energetically and vibrationally. You need to increase the quality, in which is through the mental and emotional and the etheric aspects of your whole energetic system. You need to work at removing these dark aspects, these densities of which they can manipulate and hijack you towards to means that are not for your highest good. So it's important to have a practice in place daily to self-inquire so you can remove or integrate these energies to a higher vibration to increase the qualities so that the forces that be cannot use those qualities against you, inadvertently slowing the pace of the Great Awakening. Okay? It's important for all of us to go through that process to eliminate some of these aspects of us that we would say are darker aspects or lower densities, lower vibrations that won't serve us and can be manipulated and hijacked towards means that aren't for a higher good. Okay? The third thing I will say, on top of these other two things, even though I said two, the third thing I will say is this. The light can't be stamped out. The light is what will win and disperse the darkness. You can't use what the darkness uses to beat the darkness. Only light, only love, and more self-awareness can defeat the darkness. You can't use the same tools which they use as fear, anger, fighting, etc. to manipulate you and the rest of this unconscious world to fight against the dark. Excuse me. It won't work because that's exactly the same tools that they use, and it's just going to help them. So it is through only the light, you must remember, that can disperse the darkness. And that is the light of self-awareness, the connection to source, love, empowerment, sovereignty, etc. Seeking within to find wholeness within you, rather than the opposite, which is separation, projecting fear and anger and thinking that you have enemies, etc. Those three things will really help you as you go forward in the light. And to remember that the light cannot be extinguished. Once it is lit, it cannot be extinguished, and the light will always win. So, be constructive with your thoughts. Be constructive with how you use your energy. Remember the light. Remember going inward. And through this great awakening, humanity will transition to a greater aspect, a greater civilization, one that we will never even known, also known as the golden age of humanity. I love you. I hope that makes a lot of sense. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.